Hey, it's Broken Office Chair, a podcast produced by Alternatives. Broken Office Chair is hosted by Alternatives Executive Director Bessie Alcantara. Bessie is a Chicago native, first-generation Salvadoran Mexican-American who's passionate about dismantling systemic racism. In each episode, Bessie will be joined by her friends and colleagues who are ready to speak candidly about their experiences as people of color in their various professions. In the episodes, they'll address topics such as issues in the nonprofit sector, racial equity, DEI in practice, and much, much more.
Today, I am joined by Tinisha Dorsey, Principal of Life, Absence, and Disability Practice at a large global consulting firm. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, to kick us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, just
Sure.
overall blanket terms.
Yeah, layman's terms.
Layman's terms for the listeners.
Oh, definitely. I'm a consultant. The most lay way of saying that is in health benefits, particularly around life insurance, disability insurance, and leave management. So if anytime you need to take off to bond with your child, take care of a family member, things like that, I manage those programs for very large companies.
All right. And so one of the things that you mentioned when we were talking on our Zoom is that you were the only Black woman principal. What has that experience like journey getting there and being in your role now?
Yeah. And that's not within the entire firm.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some Black women and men in higher levels, but we have 75,000 employees across the globe. So within my practice, I am the only Black female principal, actually the only Black principal, period. And I didn't realize it until I was promoted, and I thought about it, and I asked my leader, I said, has there been any others? And he said, no, you're the first. And I was like, really? And it just hit me because, you know, here in 2023, or this happened last year in 2022, it's something that you kind of take for granted because you just assume that it's, you know, something that's happening quite often now, that Black people are being promoted more, and they are within corporate America, but there's still that gap. There's still a disparity there, and it's work to do. And that's really, I'm grateful, A, but B, paving the way for others to make it easier for them.
It's funny, when you think about being the first, I would imagine that there's a sense of pride that you got that far.
Yeah.
And also, do you feel pressure to represent?
100%.
How does that pressure show up?
In my perfectionism, and that's been a part of my personality since I was a child. So just, you know, having to put my best foot forward and understanding that my best may be, you know, the effort that I put forth for my best may not be required of, you know, my white colleagues or white counterparts. So I can't look at what they're doing. I just have to know that whatever I do, I can only have pride if I know that I did put my best foot forward. And that's even in the small tasks, you know. So I think, you know, from that perspective and just understanding that, but also as I mentor and speak to other up-and-coming junior colleagues, just, you know, teaching them the ropes and helping them understand the culture and what it takes to, you know, really get here. And owning your own future is a big part of it.
So when you say helping them understand the culture in particular, what does that mean?
What that means is sometimes we can get almost in a way of being taught, you know, through college, through secondary education, that, hey, you need to depend on your teacher to tell you what success means, right? And they grade you and they tell you if you're doing well or not. Well, when you get into the business world, you can't really depend on your people manager to do that for you. You have to control that and what I mean by that is you have to understand what it takes to do your job and do it well. Then you have to tie that to revenue, in my case, in my industry. But then you also have to keep a track record of what you're doing, the impact that you're making. So when you go into your review, when you go into your performance reviews and you're speaking to your people manager, you're not waiting to be told how you're doing. you're saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm creating impact. So now that dynamic is in your hands, and they can't help but promote you if you're doing your best, right? And if you've laid out a plan for yourself and you're hitting those targets. So that's what I mean. You would be surprised how many Black colleagues will go into a meeting with their manager for their performance review, and it's very, it's very gray. It's very generalized. Okay, I think you're doing well. It's very subjective. There's nothing there that's showing me that, hey, I hit this mark. This is where I fell within this performance. And sometimes that's up to us to do for ourselves just to make sure that we're rated and we're ranked appropriately.
And I appreciate that you bring this up, because one of the things that we do as an organization is we actually do not connect evaluation to merit-based increases.
Okay.
And the reason for that is apparently that is where the most bias comes up that hurts the pay for Black folks in particular and other folks of color. Yeah. Because evaluations tend to be so subjective. So when you connect them to pay.
That's right.
Then Black and brown folks end up earning significantly less.
Right. But part of that is that when it is connected, you have to understand the game, and put that in air quotes.
Yes.
Because there is a game to it. And it's understanding what are they looking for? What does it mean to be a standout within my, let's say earnings bracket? And so then throughout the year, I'm hitting those targets because I know this is what it means to get this bonus. This is what it means to be evaluated for a promotion. And I'm applying that to my goals. And everybody should have their goals laid out before the year begins. You are your own brand. You are your own business. And to do that, you have to have a business plan, right? To make sure that you're successful. You have to understand, okay, in order to stand out, I need to be able to do this. I need to show that I impacted revenue in this way. And all of that is just, like I said, understanding your business and applying it to your own goals and metrics. And that takes the subjectivity out of it. You don't have to like me, but you can't debate my performance because I'm showing you here where I hit the targets. And they're not going to do that work for you, and we have to do that for ourselves.
It's interesting, though, because you talk about the need for mentorship, right? But when you really think about it, it's like, where else would we learn it if our parents did not have the type? Like for me, my parents did not have this type of job, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to learn it because somebody taught it to me.
Right.
And so I think that speaks to the responsibility for those of us who get to these positions.
It does.
To bring others along.
It does. Very much so, because it's, corporate America, any industry, there is a network that we haven't been privy to as people of color. And it's, we've touted it as the good old boy network. We've heard that before. And, where it's all in who you know. And it is. It really is. So if I'm not a part of that network, I have to build my own. And that's where we come in. And we have a responsibility when we, at any level of success, you don't have to become the CEO to have impact. You can just, be a successful team player. You still have a responsibility of helping those that are on your team also be successful. So sometimes we have this thought that, okay, I'm not high enough yet. I can only worry about myself right now because I haven't reached the pinnacle yet. But you have to bring people along with you as you progress.
You know who gave me that advice?
Who?
Our girl,
Dr.
Roz.
Dr. Roz.
I'm going to tell her to listen to this one in particular.
Our
friend in common.
She's truly a game changer. She's truly a game changer, yes.
I had my first job out of grad school was with her.
Okay.
And somebody had asked me, they were currently a student, they had asked me to mentor them. And I was like a few months out of grad school maybe a year. Yeah. And I was like, how can I mentor her? I'm like a year out. And she was like, you're further along than she is.
That's right.
So you can help out with what you know so far.
Yeah.
And so that was complete different frame of mind for me, because I always thought, like you said, we have to be in leadership positions in order to help bring folks along.
Yeah. It's funny. I was accepted into a Black leadership program within my company. And so, it was interesting that certain things were not put into play or put in place for us within this particular program. And these are Black leaders across the globe, not just in the U.S., not just in Canada, but UK, Dubai, where we've all been chosen to be a part of this program. But there were certain key things missing that I saw immediately. And I said, hey, talk to the leader of the program and say, can we, engage this? I think we should do that. Just by my success and leadership, I knew that for this program to get the visibility, to get the support, for us to gain the access that we are hoping to gain through this, that there are certain things that need to be put in place. And so the chief diversity officer said to me, he was like, well, you're coming for my job. I said, no, I'm not. I said, if you succeed, we all succeed.
Right.
And he's way further along in this than me. He's in the C-suite. However, I just understand business. And so in doing that, I was able to implement certain things within our program immediately and get the backing of key leadership so that we can all be successful. And we're all on the same level.
Okay, hold on. We're running a leadership program. So what are these things that you wanted to implement just to make sure that might be something that we want to do?
I can talk to you about that. One of the things is, how do you measure success? Mm-hmm. So what does your leadership need to see to say, yeah, we should continue to invest in this program? Mm-hmm. So those are things that we have to think about. Versus, this is the right thing to do, that's not enough. Mm-hmm. Versus saying, we need a little bit more diversity in our leadership, that's not enough. It has to be measurements in place where they can see that, okay, we are making an impact, not just in diversity, but because we're allowing access, visibility, and leadership for these, I say colleagues as a habit, but for these leaders, it's going to affect our revenue. Mm-hmm. It's going to affect our reach within the community, and it is good for business. And those are the things that, unfortunately, we have to prove it. Mm-hmm. We're in it, but we have to prove those things. And once you lay that groundwork, then it can't be debated. It can't be, put on the slate like, should we keep this? It's pretty expensive. No, because you've proven success. So one of the first things that you should do is always implement metrics to show the success. And you do that through surveys. And then those surveys you place numerical values on it. Does it meet, exceed, or fall below your expectation? That's a 1 through 5. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you can put it in charts. Then from there, you can survey your alumni. You can survey the mentors that may be a part of that program. And now you have data that you can show them. And then you track those that were in the program. Let's say a year later, you were in this program in 2022. Let's go back to you in 2023. Where are you today? Mm-hmm. What successes have you garnered? Can you attribute any of those from being in the program? That's how you show success. And then from there, they can say, okay, she has a broad reach. She's, hitting communities that we didn't think that we can hit. As a result, our enrollment is going up, or we're gaining more business in this sector that we never would have gained. Mm-hmm. That's monetary value. Okay. And so now you have a program that is not just good because it's the right thing to do, but it's good for business.
So I have a question, right?
Yeah.
Who brought you along? And what did that look like?
So many people of varying backgrounds. My sponsor, so you have a mentor, you can have a coach, you can have a sponsor. My sponsor is a white man.
Okay.
Who truly believed in me and understood, just the disparities of race within corporate America, but also knew, and if you were to ask him, he hired me. He would say I'm his best hire. In all of his years, his 30 plus years in corporate America, I'm one of the top 5, he would say. And so he sponsored me. And what I mean by that, so you can have a mentor who can help you with a particular task, your job, get to the next level. But a sponsor is someone who advocates for you, who helps open those doors, who helps provide opportunity. And that's what he's been for me. And that's important. Now, as far as other mentors, I have coaches outside of my job. I have my sorority, which is key as far as just having that impact in the community. They gave me my first opportunity to serve on the board of directors. And then you have people that have actually been in a cause of negativity that I could have listened and said, okay, she's right. I'll never, go far in corporate America. I had people actually tell me that nobody will ever hire you. You're, a black girl from the west side of Chicago. And, just telling me all the things about me that society doesn't like. And, I was like, really? Okay. I mean, for a minute it hurt, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I have. So that's a huge part of my success, just proving I still have her voice. I still hear it clear as day, her telling me these things and what I was up against, and how there was no way that I could make it. And the most I could do was be a temporary employee for a company like the one she owned. And she was a black female business owner.
That's upsetting.
Yes. Yeah. But it tells you that motivation, support, can come from all different colors, can be wrapped up in all different packages. So don't get hung up on finding a black mentor. Don't get hung up on staying away from a white person that may want to pour into you or help you with your success. God puts a lot of people in your way, and you just have to understand their purpose, and you capitalize on that.
It's interesting because what's coming up for me, and I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before. I'm like looking at to my right over here. Have I talked about my first professional interview on this podcast?
I would love to hear about it.
So, and I bring this up because it's something so minor, and we're talking about what happens once you're already in your career.
Yeah.
Right. And then for me, it brings me back to like, a lot of folks, especially when they're hiring folks of color, don't understand how much we don't know if our parents have never been in these arenas, right?
Yeah.
And so my mom's a housekeeper and my dad's a cook. And my first interview, I was 16 years old, and I was an editor for a newspaper. So the newspaper sent me for an internship with NBC.
Okay.
It was with a black woman in this nice little fancy building. I've never been in a building like that. My mom tried to make me buy an appropriate outfit for an interview. I did not listen to her. So I had on some capri pants and like a fitted shirt and my little sandals, and I thought I was cute, right? I was 16. And I came in, and I was chewing my gum, and she asked me a couple of questions, and she told me to go like scan the document. Had never seen this type of scanner before. So like it took me like 10 minutes, but I would not ask for help, and figured out how to do it, came back in. And so she was like, all right, let me tell you what you did wrong. Black woman, older black woman. Looking back, she was probably in her 40s, so older to me at 16, right?
Okay.
And she was like, first of all, when you come in, you put your purse on the floor. You don't keep it on your lap. She's like, you don't cross your legs, because I think I had my legs very casually. She's like, you spit out your gum. And she like walked me through everything I did wrong in the interview. I left and I cried, and I never made those mistakes again.
Yeah.
And it's been... I'm about to age myself. I'm 41 now. It's been so long, but up until that, nobody has ever helped you with an interview again.
Yeah.
That was so significant.
Yeah.
And like now thinking back, how many of us interview a candidate, don't like them because of things that they did wrong, and don't give them that feedback.
Don't give them the feedback.
And I mean, I was a child. Like my feelings were. I'm sure I started tearing up during the interview, but it was
a life lesson, right?
Yes, so helpful.
Yeah.
And so the need, it always comes up for me, like the need to give people feedback and help them along, even if it's for a few minutes.
Yes, and that's key, and that's one of the things that I do. Just it's part of my nature, right? So, for example, within our office, we have a diversity task force. One of my company is very white, and so, but we're in Chicago, and so from our leadership down, they want our office to look more like the community in which we are. So we formed the Chicago Office Diversity Task Force. And doing that, we are reaching out to schools within the Chicago community that they normally wouldn't recruit from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they normally recruit from Big Ten. They look at Michigan, Notre Dame. We'll get some kids from DePaul, some of the, top universities. But, what about the smaller schools within our community? Because, most of us can't afford to go to those schools, right? And so we're focusing on those. One of the schools in my community is Benedictine and Lyle. And then we have, all over Xavier, just different schools. As a part of the process, initially, the students, they wouldn't get past the resume, the application. So we figured out a way to get around that, put my name on there, put that you're part of this program, this is how you found out. Then they get to the interview, they wouldn't get to the second round of the interview. And so we're like, okay, if we're doing all of this work to get more diverse candidates, okay, we need to help them through that process. So as a result, we formed interview tips. We do mock interviews with them. We tell them how to dress. We tell them how to answer the questions. We look at their resume. We do one-on-one and go through the resume with them and be like, okay, for this position, you need to really highlight this. They're in college.
Yeah.
No one has ever told them this or walked them through this. And yeah, every school has a career development center, but they don't really take the time to really walk them through that process. And it could take them forever to learn it and get a job. And so we're taking control of that and just really helping them through those things. So you're right. It's where else would they learn it?
Yeah, and also, yes, you have a career center, but there's nothing like somebody who does hiring, has done hiring as part of their job.
Yeah.
Because I can give you a different perspective than I got when I was being taught these things, just because now I hire.
Yeah.
And so I know what I'm looking for in questions.
Yep.
And a lot of how people hire in reality does not fit the standard tools and tips. Like one of my the questions that always comes up for me is like the version of what's your greatest weakness, and how people are taught to say a strength and like I'm a perfectionist and things like that. And I'm like, I'm actually looking for how honest you are. So I need you to tell me. So I'm like, I think that having that direction from people who actually hire is super helpful.
I agree 100%.
So we talked quite a bit, and see, I just did the thing they told me not to do and drink. So we talked quite a bit about your career. And you're also a mom.
Yes.
In the midst of how do you juggle all of that?
My biggest blessing are my 3 big babies. They're not babies anymore. Technically, they're adults, sort of. But I have a almost 25-year-old daughter.
Y'all, she does not look like she has a 25-year-old daughter.
Oh, thank you. I paid you to say that. And I have and she's in corporate America, also owns her own company. And then I have a senior in college. He's at DePaul, film student. And then my baby is a freshman in college. So my husband and I have been married over 25 years. And we've been traveling every weekend to his football game. So he's a football player. And this is his first year, and the football team isn't doing the best, new coaching staff and everything, but it's absolutely amazing to see him, my 18-year-old, dealing with a situation where they've only won one game, but to see the maturity, I mean, it's like a proud mommy moment, right? So everybody wants to win. It's easy to be your best self when you're winning everything.
Yeah.
But to just see his character, them having a losing season, and he's encouraging his teammates, who a lot of them are older. Some of them have kids because of the whole COVID year thing. He has teammates who are like 23, 24, which is a whole nother story. But just to see how he's handling this adversity, it's like my husband and I, we look at each other and we're like, okay, we did something right here, because it's easy to be your best self when you're winning and everything is well. But who are you when you're not winning? And, and how do you handle that? And how are you handling the pressure of not being the best at something that, you've always been the best at? So,
what do you think for giving like all of your experiences, challenges, successes? What's important for you to impart on your kids?
I think having a spirit of empathy, number one, and just knowing that life isn't just about them, but also educating themselves. Don't go with the status quo. And, we're seeing that a lot currently in what's playing out with the war, in Gaza and what's happening there, and just seeking the truth and being truth seekers and not going with the masses or the popular opinion. Not saying that you should just look to be, to oppose people, but it means that just really understand, ask questions, understand the why, and then try to make a difference where you can. So I think those are the biggest things. And my children, I can say, that are very compassionate people. And they think about the underdog and how they can help. And I love those qualities. They're just kind, good humans. And I love that.
I wanted to bring up, too, because in the midst of all of this, we talked a little bit about your experience raising a Black son, especially in this environment.
2 of them.
2 of them. There you go.
Yeah. That has been the source of a lot of my gray hair. It's colored right now, so you can't see. Some of it is peeping through a little bit. But let's start off when they were getting their driver's license, right? Mm-hmm. Just that whole different set of rules and teaching them how to talk to police officers and how they may be singled out of the crowd, because my kids were raised in Naperville, okay? Mm-hmm. Most of their peers were white kids. And so their friends' experience would be a lot different from their experience. And so just helping them and teaching them to understand that, because I grew up on the west side of Chicago, it was just a part of our culture, and we knew, nobody really had to teach us because we saw it.
Right.
And so, part of me was a little nervous about that. Like, am I doing the right thing by raising them in the suburbs? And, they're not going to really be aware of a lot of things. But just keeping them very close to our community, and understanding those things when it came to social injustice, police brutality, having witnessed a lot of my family go through certain things. A lot of my younger male cousins who were wrongly incarcerated and, brutalized by the police, just making sure that they knew those stories and they met those relatives and they heard it firsthand. I think it really made a difference for them. So they didn't necessarily have to experience certain things to understand this stuff is real. Mm-hmm. It's not just something that I'm seeing on TV. And teaching them how to, deal with it, and then when, having to experience loss, and understanding, from a mental health perspective, how to deal with that appropriately. For Black boys, they're taught that you can't show your emotions. You have to be stoic and teaching them, no, that's not true. It's okay to show your emotions, and you actually should. And helping them understand coping mechanisms when it comes to rejection, and when it comes to being called out of your name, and when the first time they experience racism, and I'm trying not to tear up thinking about that, but how they dealt with that even, So I think it's just, you raise them to be survivalist, and to understand, I want you to come home. I don't care if you lied about where you were supposed to be. If you find yourself in a situation that you don't feel safe, I am not going to beat you over the head for lying. I want you home safe. And so I think my husband and I have just raised our kids to be honest. Even if it's stuff that we don't want to hear. Like when my youngest, this may be TMI, but I found a condom cleaning up his room. And I was like, this is not his. And my husband was like, my older son, I just knew it was his. I said, this is yours, and you have to set a better example. And he's looking at me, and I just did not want to hear that it was my younger son, and I just couldn't take it. And I had to actually leave the room, and they were cracking up laughing at me because, I was just still seeing him as a baby. But, at the same time, it's like, okay, Mom, I just keep it with me just to be safe. I'm not doing anything, and just for him to talk to me and talk me off the ledge, it was just amazing. But it was another sign that, okay, we did something right. They know what to do. If given a situation, hopefully he wouldn't have been in that situation. But I think just being honest with our kids about our mistakes so that they don't repeat them, is the biggest thing.
Isn't it one of the things that's coming up for me is with all of these things that you've accomplished and what is the standard definition of success, you still have all of these, like being a Black woman and having a Black family does not magic wand wave over everything and make everything okay, right?
No, correct. That's very true. And I think, we can't use our color as an excuse. Or say, well, I didn't get it because of this, or, they looked over me because of that. Instead, you just take away every excuse. And so that's what I've learned to do, and just looking inward. And some things you just can't control, but for me, I just say, okay, it just wasn't for me. But, the pity parties, that's something that I don't allow for my kids and I don't allow for myself. It's just like, okay, let's regroup and see how, that wasn't the way to go. We're going to go a different direction and we're going to definitely gain success from there. So I think definitely not using it as an excuse, my skin color or my sex or my gender, but more so using it as an empowerment to say, we come from a line of strong Black women, strong Black men. And so we are able to accomplish stuff in the worst situations possible. And that's our legacy, and that's how we're going to continue to face things.
I want to acknowledge, though, that it is still unfair. And one of the things that I say all the time, especially internally, is it's unfair. And also you have to be more credentialed. You have to work harder. You have to be more everything to get to the same spot.
True.
But I think that it's important for folks like you to get to these spots because then we create avenues for other people. Yeah,
very true. Very true. All of it is very true. And I think it's really about, like you said, your mentality around it. It's all in how you utilize that unfairness. You can use it as a pity party, or you can say, okay, this isn't fair, so I'm going to change it.
Right.
So it is your attitude around it, 100%. I think the other piece, and this is where my age is coming into play, I'm trying not to forget my thought around that, is just understanding the power in being different. And loving being different, and I think that once we recognize that and say, okay, I can't help it, and some people can't help their biases, but it's going to be my job to, help see them through that and educate them on that when I can, but also not allow it to stop me. And so I think that's, that's the power, taking that power away from that unfairness. And it is true that we do have to work harder, but it could be so much worse. And so many have made it a lot less unfair, if I can use that word. And those that have come before us have given their lives. So how dare I complain ever? Because I have it a lot better than many did just maybe 30 years ago. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's always going to be work, and you just got to keep striving.
All right, we're coming up on time. So any advice that you want to give folks trying to get into their fields, succeed at their fields?
Yeah. I think the biggest advice definitely is to make sure that you put your own destiny in your hands, and just being aware of what success means within that environment and within that culture. It doesn't mean that you lose your identity, but you understand how to play the game. I would say that's number one. I think another big piece is giving back. The best way to be successful is to always look to help others. Because I believe that, some people call it karma, but it's like what you put out there, you get it back tenfold. And if you're helping others, it does nothing but help yourself. I mean, it seems self-serving, but it really is the law of attraction, and what you put out there, you'll get back. So I think that, one, hold your own destiny in your hands. Number two is find a way to help others on their journey. And then I would say number three is just don't ever give up. Don't let anyone stop you from achieving your goals, and you'll be okay.
All right. Do you have an online presence where folks can find you?
Sure. I have, so I'm on Instagram. It's just me being a mom. I don't post often, and that's Fit Gal Nisha at 08. And I was cataloging my journey in fitness at one time. I did one fitness competition. My daughter has taken over that reign, so she's won a few of those. So I would say there, and then Facebook is just my name, Tinisha Dorsey.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Keep up with everything going on at Alternatives, or to donate, you can visit us at our website, alternativesyouth.org. You can also follow us at Alternatives Inc. on Instagram or at Alternatives Youth on Facebook. If you want to keep up with Bessie, you can follow her on Instagram and TikTok at Bessie_Alcantara. Thanks for listening.